Hello everyone and welcome to Final Fantasy VII. This is a game overview of Final Fantasy VII. This is the PC version that was released on Steam and also from the Square Enix website, although you may have the disc from however long ago that was. And it's pretty much identical to the PlayStation version, so there isn't really much differences in that regards. Now, Final Fantasy VII was my second Final Fantasy game, and for many people it was their first RPG and their first foray into the whole genre. And so I'm basically just going to go through and explain how this game works for you who are curious to know. I'm going to go through and explain the mechanics like I do when I overview a game. I'm going to go and explain the mechanics, and let's get right to it. I'm actually continuing this from a save file I have from 2012, and this is like right near the end of the game, but don't worry, I'll avoid spoilers. Unfortunately, there's one thing that kind of is I can't avoid the spoiler for, but it's the thing that everyone knows by now, so there's nothing I can do in that regard. But there is one thing that's different about the PC version, and that is just how many save slots you've got. And I've made good use of these trying to create backups, so I have like loads of backups, so as you can see here I've got all these. So I'm going to load my file. As you can tell, I've got a particular favourite team, and I'll be going over the characters and all that, and explaining why I like particular characters. As you can see, Cloud's level's 97 there, so this is far in the game. You know, this is like having done everything pretty much, and the time is at nearly 60 hours. But I'll try my best not to spoil anything, or as little as possible. Okay, first thing I want to do is open up the menu. This is the menu screen. Here are our characters. Oh, these are my characters more specifically with their stats. And you do have other characters, which I will go through later, and you can switch between them. Actually, let us look at the stats for our characters here. Now, one thing I want to point out is that characters don't really have any innate abilities to themselves. It all comes down to the materia, and I will get to that shortly, and that is pretty much the biggest part of this. And here you have their stats, how much experience they've got and how much experience it takes for them to get to the next level, their limit level, which I'll also go through, and their abilities. And Cloud currently has no materia attached, so he can only use attack and item. And here we have his equipment, and again I'll go through what all these circles mean. Skip over to Yuffie, you can see all her stats there. I've taken off all the materia for the sake of showing you how it works and what it all does. And there's Sid, and Sid is Fury, as you can see there, he's got the Fury effect on. So yes, they're Sid stats. Now if I exit out of that, if I go to the PHS, you actually get the PHS rather early in the game. These are my other characters here. So, and this is where you can switch between characters. So for example, I can switch Yuffie out and exchange her for Red 13, or I can exchange Sid for Vincent, for example. And I will be going over why I would use each character in each particular circumstance. And if you double click, so to speak, on them, you get their equipment and experience. And same with Tifa, for example, and Red 13, and Cait Sith, and Vincent. And as you can see, Cait Sith has the sadness effect on. Fury and Sadness are the two status effects in this game which actually stick with you between battles. There are other status effects that you'd expect to have in RPGs like Poison and Sleep and confuse and all that, but fury and sadness is usually self-inflicted, and they're the only ones that carry between battles. Okay, now, in terms of abilities, all abilities are gotten through via the materia. And here, as you can see as I scroll through the pages, this is all the materia I have. Out of all materia. Yes. These are all the materia that I have. Nearly hit the limit actually. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 away from actually having the limit, and I think that's like 200. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so you can have a maximum of 200 materia off your characters, but of course if you equip materia onto your character, that frees up an extra space in the main bag, I suppose you could call it. And the materia goes onto these different slots here, and these are your weapons and your armour. In fact, I'll go through that first. If we go to equipment, every character has a set of weapons. There's armour, and armour can be equipped by anyone, but then you have an accessory. So if we look through some of Cloud's weapons that I've got here, if you look back here, we have his initial Buster Sword, which is the first weapon you start with in the game, and if I equip that, as you can see, his stats, like his attack and his attack percentage, will jump right down. And then it has 2 slots here which are both linked, and it has normal growth. And this is all to do with materia, and I'll explain what the linkage, is that a word, linkage? What the linking means and what the growth means. So, I can go through all these different weapons here, and as you can see, they all change the stats differently, but they also have a different amount of materia slot and different growth. So let's say here we have the Mithril Saber has 2 linked and 1 by itself, and that's the stats that it makes Cloud go down to. That's because I've got the Apocalypse equipped, so it'd be equipping a weaker weapon. We have Enhanced Sword, as you can see it's got 8 slots, all of them in pairs of 2, and all that. And if we go down to these 2 here, the Force Dealer and the Rune Blade, they have 4 unlinked slots. The Rune Blade has 4 unlinked slots and double growth. And the Nail Bat has no materia slots at all. Now the one that I'm using for Cloud here is the Apocalypse, which has got 3 slots and triple growth. There's only 2 triple growth weapons in this game. Cloud has one of them, and Sid has the other, but he doesn't have it equipped right now. And the same applies for armors, apart from armors are actually universal, they're not specific to characters. So see, Bronze Bangle here is something that you'd have at the start, and then you've got like Titan Bangle, Mithril Armlet, and as you can see as I'm scrolling through these, you can see how the amount of materia slots is changing and the growth and the stats are changing as well. And Gygas Armlet, for example, raises your defense massively, but it has no growth on it, and it has 5 materia slots. Usually, what I find quite strange is that if it's got materia growth, then it's got like a little grey dot inside these circles, but if it doesn't, those dots are empty. So you can equip materia to the Gygas Armlet, but it won't grow, because materia grows as you have it equipped and beat enemies with it. But no worries, I'll go through that soon enough. So yeah, these are the different armour that you can equip. As you can see here, the Zydric adds all those effects and decreases all ML until it attacks by a half, and it has no materia. Then we have the accessories, and these are just to increase or add extra effects to your characters. So for example, the ribbon protects against all abnormal status. And as you can see, I'll go down here, they all have different effects. Like for example, the curse ring, it doesn't actually give you much detail here. It says it increases each status, but ... Yeah, it doesn't tell you what it does. Water ring drains water attacks. The peace ring protects you against berserk fury and sadness. So yeah, and each character you choose different weapons and armor and accessories to equip. So Yuffie here has the sprint shoes, so she's automatically put into haste, so she'll act faster in battle. I won't need to manually cast haste on her for it to work. Okay. Now, in order to give your characters abilities, you have to equip them with materia, and materia can be transferred between any characters at any time as long as you're not in a battle. So, here I have my materia, and it has all this information about it, and I'll go through that soon. As you can see, it all changes, they all have different effects, and you've got different colour materia as well, because different coloured materia actually mean something different. So green and blue actually do different things to each other, and yellow is something different, so is purple, and so is red. I'm going to go back to the start here. Actually, I'm going to scroll down a bit and have a look at some of the entry level materia here. And I'm going to talk about what all this stuff means here. Now, green materia is actually magic, so if you equip some green materia to a character, they will be able to cast that spell. In actual fact, I'll exit out of here, and I'll go to magic, and as you can see, Cloud has no magic equipped. Completely empty, because I've removed all those materia. Yuffie, the same. Sid, also the same. So, if I go to Cloud and I equip him with, let us see here, this fire materia has actually not been used yet, and it's currently at its first stage. These stars here represent what level the materia is at. So this particular materia can have 4 levels. The 1 star means that it's only in its first level, and as you win battles you collect AP, and as you gain MP you gain more levels. But for now, this materia fire only has the level 1 fire spell, and as you can see here, it makes some differences to your stats as well. So strength will go down by 1, but magic will go up by 1, and max HP will go down by 2%, but max MP will go up by 2%. So if I equip fire, you'll be able to see his HP and MP change a bit. Although that's very minor, it doesn't make too much of a difference unless you're like stacking loads of magic onto one character, then it will make a different effect there. So now that Cloud has that equipped, let's have a look at Cloud's magic. And as you can see there, he has the fire elemental magic. So let's exit out of that. Now, like I said before, as you win battles and gather AP, this materia will level up. See, to get from level 1 to level 2, it takes 2000 AP. Now, about that growth thing I was talking about, the Apocalypse is a triple growth weapon, and what that means is that all materia attached to it will gain AP 3 times as fast. So, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into a random battle here, and I realise that all my characters are materialists, so they actually are very weak at the moment because all they can do is attack and use items. I'm going to go into a battle. See, Cloud can use magic here, so if I cast fire with him. And by the way, just for reference, if you're wondering why this battle is going to be so easy, it's because, well, my characters are like the max level, and you don't need to be max level to reach this point in the game, so I'm just using this to demonstrate how things work. So I would not usually just be stood here fighting these enemies, I'm just demonstrating how the materia works and all that. Okay, 2,600 experience and 320 AP. Okay, 320 AP. What is 320 tripled? Yeah, 960. See now there he has 960 AP attached to from the fire materia, and he only needs 1040 to level up again. Now, take note that I really am using like the very, very early level materia and demonstrating it fighting enemies like much later in the game. So just playing through this game naturally, you will not level up materia this fast. It will take hours to be able to get your materia from the first level to its second level first time through. As you progress through the story, I'm just doing this to demonstrate it. So I'm going to go into a couple of more battles, and I'll see you then, and you'll see the materia level up. So I'll see you then. Okay, and we're back, and I've just earned enough AP. As you can see there, fire level up. As you probably just saw it pop up there. That means that the materia has leveled up. So now, okay, materia, Cloud. Now it's level 2, so now that materia grants Cloud access to not just fire, but fire 2. And 2,160 AP total, and to level up to level 3, it's going to take 15,840 AP to level up again. So the gap is quite big there, just how it changes from 2,000 to another 16,000 after that. Likewise, if we go into magic, and we see here that Cloud has fire and fire 2. So it grants him access to both of those spells. And so if we get that fire materia to the 3rd level, it will then have the fire 3 ability. And the 4th level, well, that's when the materia masters, and something special happens when materia masters, but I'm not going to go into that right now. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the different types of materia and how they work and what each colour means. Also, like I said before, despite the fact that I've been training this materia with Cloud, I can take it off Cloud and give it to Yuffie. So, wherever it is. There it is, I can now give it to Yuffie, and Yuffie can continue on from there. Though, also, you have to remember that Cloud was operating on a triple growth weapon here, so Yuffie wouldn't be able to level it up as quickly because she doesn't have a triple growth weapon. So yeah, abilities can be very, very easily maneuvered and exchanged between the different characters, which is a neat style. I don't think there was many, if any, RPGs prior to this game where that was really possible. And I know some people may complain, going like, oh, it means all the characters are all the same. Well, it doesn't make all the characters all the same. It just means you have to consider them in different ways than the traditional means of whether the characters are like what their skills are individually in terms of like whether they're a healer or a DPS or whatever. It means you just have to work through the game differently, and it's neat. Okay, so let's go through the different materia here. As you can see, here we have green materia, and these are the magic materia. So when you equip these, you can use all the magic that you've learnt on them. So for example, I could equip that restore materia, but that restore materia only has one level, so it's only got the first cure spell, but this restore materia is completely maxed out. It has all of its abilities and it's mastered. So if I equip that, then Cloud will have access to all those abilities, although notice that because it's mastered, it won't be gaining any AP. So sticking that on a double or triple growth weapon is going to be a very bad idea. Same for armor, don't want to put it on a double growth or a single, well, don't want to put it on a double growth piece of armor either. And I can equip a bunch of this. Of course, if I equip like multiple restores, it's not going to give him more abilities, it's just going to add the same one, so that's not going to make much difference. So I could add, say, that one, and revive, and fire, which has now got fire 2, heal, and transform. So I could equip him with these 6 materia here, and go to his magic, and you can see he has all these different magic because he has all those green materia attached. So remove all them. So that's how green materia works. Now next up is blue, but I'll go through blue later. Now yellow is kind of similar in that it's commands that you can do in battle rather than specific magic. This doesn't necessarily cost MP unless something specifies that it costs MP. So as you can see, I've got Death Blow there, and then there's Morph, and then there's Throw, which I can use Throw, but I can't use Coin because I haven't leveled it up to learn Coin yet. And then I've got the Sense and Steal. And you've got all those. Now one thing I want to point out with the yellow materia is that, well, there's 2 things that make yellow materia different from green. One of them is that it doesn't necessarily cost MP because you're using commands and not magic. Another one is that if you level them up to learn the next ability can override the previous one. So double cut here allows you to attack twice in one go. Now a level 1 double cut will have 2 times cut, but if you level it up to the second level, like I have with this one, it will learn 4 times cut, but it will erase 2 times cut in the process. And another example of this is, if I can, there it is, Slash All. See, Slash All is attack all opponents, and if you level it up, like this one here I've got leveled up, it teaches you Flash, which actually overrides Slash All. Now there's one particular anomaly when it comes to yellow materia, and that is these ones here. These are the enemy skill materia. Now enemy skill is kind of like what you usually have for blue magic in other Final Fantasy games. And enemy skill materia can be extremely powerful, but you've got to work on them. That's the catch. As you can see, I've got all these abilities, and all these stars represent a different enemy skill that you have. The way the enemy skill works is that you attach enemy skill materia to a character, say this one to Cloud. Okay. Now, what that means is that if Cloud gets attacked with an enemy skill, then that enemy skill materia will learn that enemy skill. So with that equipped, Cloud has access to all the enemy skills. Let's actually exit out of here for a moment and go to magic. And if we look at enemy skills, we can see that he's got access to all of these because he has that enemy skill materia attached. Now some enemy skills are actually rather difficult to acquire. You actually have to go out of your way to find the monster that will cast them, and in some cases, because you have to be hit by them, you actually can't have the enemy use them on you. You have to take control of them and make them use it on you. For example, White Wind here restores HP and status to every ally. So White Wind is actually something that the enemy wouldn't want to use on you because it's actually a positive thing. So you'd have to take control of them through the manipulate materia and then control them to use it on you. So enemy skill is quite an odd materia, and it's actually extremely powerful if you know what you're doing. But let's say I attach, what else is there? Manipulate, sense, steal, double cut, and that slash all. If we go to status and we look at Claudia, as you can see, there's his commands during battle. You won't have the single column because he's actually got more than that. Whereas if we look at Yuffie and Sid, they've still only got attack and item because they don't have any materia equipped. Now some materia can actually override your other commands. So, for example, double cut, that will override your main attack. Your attack will become 4 times cut, and these W ones here, for example, W item allows you to use 2 items at once. That will override your item command. Same with W summon and W magic. That will override your summon, and that will override your magic. And I'm going to point out that some of these particular materia are like really, really good and all that, and really hard to get, and like really like high end, like secret materia. But they're here anyway. I'm not really spoiling anything by scrolling through the materia here because you have, it's not exact, like what materia lies out there isn't exactly a secret. Even though in the game, how you get the materia, it is. But we're in the age of the internet, so it's not like you're gonna really be shielded from knowing what things are out there. Now, purple materia is materia that you don't actually use, but rather it's materia that adds an effect to the character. So, for example, we have the cover materia, and what that does is that whoever has cover, if one of their allies gets attacked, then that character will jump in and take the damage. And what the levels do in this case, as you can see, this cover materia is level 3 of 5. It depends on the particular one. So for cover, 3 out of 5 means that it works 60% of the time. And if it's level 5, it works 100% of the time. Same can be said for counterattack. The more that you increase it, the more likely it is to happen. Long range, for example, allows the character to have the strength of a front row character whilst being in the back row. And I'll go over that in a minute. Then we have preemptive, which increases the probability of you getting a particular head start on the enemies when you find them. And then there's a few story-specific ones, like Chocobo Lure. You need to use that in order to be able to get Chocobo in the game. Your enemy lure to attract enemies, and enemy way to reduce the amount of encounters. But then you have all these like extra bonuses, like one that increases how much kill you get or experience, and then stat boosting ones. So, if for example we take a look at this, HP Plus increases your max HP by 50%. Now, Cloud isn't a good example here because his max HP is 9,158 naturally, so if we equip that, it'll still only go up to the max of 9999. If we switch in a character with less HP, let's see, who has little HP? Well, they all have a lot because I've trained them all really high. But let's say Barrett, for example. Barrett comes in Yuffie's place. And if we attach him with the HP plus materia, or MP plus materia even. Yeah, see, HP plus 50%, attach it, and his HP goes up by 50%, again maxing out at 9999. But if you equip a low level one, it'll only go up by 10%, as you can see there. And then you got the same for MP plus. And yes. So you can boost like your stats and add extra effects to your characters. Let's see if I can think of a good combination here. No, I won't bother doing that. So yeah, that's how purple materia works. And speaking of which, I should, since I brought up the long range materia, wherever it is, there it is, I should talk about how range works in this game. Now, with each character, you can either have them in the front or back row. See how all these characters' portraits are quite a bit far away from their name and all the stats here? Well, if you go into order, you can rearrange the order of your characters, but if you double click on or double press I should say, you're not using a mouse, but if you double press on a character, they will switch between the front and the back. So that's Cloud in the front, and that's Cloud in the back. What difference does it make? Well, characters in the back row actually have a stronger physical defense, but at the same time they have a weaker physical attack. So the general idea is to put magic users in the back. Although saying that, if we look at Barrett's weapons here, missing score, a lot of these are long range weapons. Barrett is one of the characters that actually does get a lot of long range weapons. Not all of his weapons are long range, but a lot of them are. As you can see, some of them it'll say long range weapon. So his weapon he's got equipped there is long range. And what that means is that if you've got a weapon that is long range, it means two things. It means that, well, first of all, that you can be in the back row and you will still have the strength if you had the front row, but with the benefit of the defense of the back row. But it also means that when certain enemies, and this doesn't happen often, but say if you're fighting a boss who is like maybe a bird flying off in the distance, or something that's just generally out of reach from normal attacks, long range weapons will be able to actually hit them regardless of where the actual enemy is. And so, for example, the long range materia allows a character to have a long range weapon even if their weapon isn't long range. So see there, I equip Cloud with the long range materia there, and now Cloud's weapon is effectively long range. I can stick him in the back row and he can slash the air and hit birds from a long distance because of that long range materia. Okay, on to red materia. Now, red materia is quite rare overall, although rare probably isn't the word to use because a lot of these are very, very story specific. And yes, you do get some that are hidden and some that are very nasty to get. And these are basically your summon monsters. You use them and you can summon the monster and they'll do an attack or whatever it is they do. And it's very typical Final Fantasy stuff here. So like Shiva, Ifrit, Ramu, Titan, Odin. Very, very basic. Well, not basic, but very standard Final Fantasy type stuff. Now, what the stars mean in terms of summons is that's how many times you can summon them per battle. So say, for example, Phoenix here is only level 1. So this Phoenix can only be summoned once per battle. If I was to gather the 28,000 AP and get it to level 2, then I'd be able to summon it twice per battle. And then if I got to level 3, then I'd be able to summon it 3 times per battle. And that's just how summons work. You may notice the vast difference between how much AP it takes to get Phoenix from level 1 to level 2 and how long it took that fire materia to get from level 1 to level 2. That one was 2,000 and this one is 28,000. And that's because usually the later materia that you get in the game requires a lot more to level up because it's much more powerful. Knights of the Round here, which is known to be like the single most powerful spell in the entire game. It's really, really powerful. It takes 50,000 AP to get from level 1 to level 2. And I must warn anyone who's playing this game that a lot of the red materia is missable, and I hate that. So, usually when you defeat a boss or when like a scene has happened, sometimes you'll see a little red sparkly thing on the floor, and there are other like non-red materia that are the same where this happens. You get like a non-sparkly thing, like a little sparkly red materia on the floor, and that is usually a sign that it's a red materia, so you need to pick it up and get whatever it is. It's not common that you won't see it there, but it can happen, just letting you know. And you can miss some of these. Well, in theory, you could miss almost all of them, but that's not likely to happen. So yes, and now I'm going to talk about blue materia, because I think blue materia is one of the most interesting. Now what blue materia does is it actually adds something to the materia it's linked to. So remember before I was talking about how some materia slots are linked? Well, this is where the linking comes into play. So you attach some materia, say for example Restore, and this Restore materia is maxed out, so it has Cure, Cure 2, Regen and Cure 3. And I can add an effect to that by equipping it, or linking it should I say, with blue materia. For example, Quadra Magic, which is one of like the most powerful blue materia in the game, paired magic used 4 times. So if I equip Quadra Magic with Restore, then that means that the Restore materia I can use 4 times in one turn. If I use Steel as well, actually no. If I equip Steel as well with this Fire materia, then Steel simultaneously when paired materia is used. So Steel as well means that if I use Fire on an enemy, at the same time I'll steal from them. And so you can make some really nice combinations here. And there's some really like nifty strategies you can pull off. Like Final Attack here, which is where the paired materia is automatically used once you die. So say if I equip, let's see, Comet with final attack, then what that means is that if Cloud loses all his health and he dies, just as he's dying, he will cast Comet. So yes, you can make some really nifty combinations there. One that's commonly used is... where is it? Final attack with the Phoenix, the red Phoenix materia. So final attack and Phoenix. Now what Phoenix does is that it brings back all your characters to life, and final attack mixed with it means that when Cloud dies, he will summon Phoenix and bring your characters back to life. And of course you've still got like these limitations here, and the limitations from the blue magic, blue materia levels. So if you really want to make your team invincible, to make the ultimate materia setup, you're going to have to put a lot of work into maxing out loads and loads of materia. Now also with blue materia, yes, you might notice I have a lot of alls here. What alls do is whatever you link it with, it will target an entire group. So say lightning with all means that when I cast lightning, when I cast a lightning spell, it will attack all enemies rather than just the one of them. And all materia you actually get quite early. Now the actual stars here is kind of the same with the red materia, in that it's the amount of times that you can use them. So the all materia can be used 4 times per battle here because it's level 4. And also there are some blue materia where it depends on where it's equipped, not just what it's equipped with. So elemental in this case adds materia element to the equipped armor or weapon or armor, as you can see there. So see if I equip, what has an element? Poison. Poison has the poison element. This yellow text means the element. So what that means is that because I've got elemental attached to poison on my armor, that means that Cloud will actually get some resistance to poison attacks. Whereas if I equip them on my weapon, what that instead would mean is that Cloud's attack would be poison based. And it's the same with added effect, in that that's the same but with status effects. So again, poison, if I can find it, there, that means that when Cloud will have a resistance to poison, but if I did that on his weapon, it means he would attack with poison, and he would well, not poison element, because it's added effect, he would be poison, the status effect poison. So yeah, that's basically what all the materia is, and yeah, I'll just explain this. The reason I have loads of all materia is because they sell for a lot of money when you master them, and they're really easy to master, so I've just been making use of that for a lot of money. But I suppose I should explain what happens when you master a materia, and what this master command materia is, for example, where there's no information here. And if I go to the top, master magic, where there's no information here, what's all that about? Well, materia duplicates. So sometimes there's materia where you can only get one copy of it, and somewhere that's not the case. Say like restore here, you can go out your way and buy restore materia, and you can buy as much as you can hold. But say, for example, the summons, And quite a lot of the material you'll find along the way, you actually can't. Like Ramu, for example, you only ever get one copy of Ramu. But what happens to materia when you max it out? Say I go to, where's my restore materia here? Now, the reason I have this restore materia that's completely blank and not got any AP is that once you master a materia, then you get suddenly for free a duplicate of the materia back at its initial level without any AP. So you can create duplicates of your materia. And so, for example, the biggest example of this would be Knights of the Round. If you were to max out Knights of the Round, you would get another materia, another Knights of the Round materia back at level 1. So you're able to get more than one materia. Now, why you would want multiple copies? Well, for one reason, it would be because that way you can equip them to multiple characters. For example, if I was to max out Knights of the Round here, and have to get another Knights of the Round, I could give 2 different characters Knights of the Round. But there's another reason than just that. Another reason is that it allows you to really make use of duplicating the effects from the blue materia. So say I put restore, hold on, I put a restore here and a restore here. Now, in one sense, I could add HP absorb, and what that does is that when you use the material it's linked with, you will actually cure HP, and I could also link it with Quadra Magic. So now I've got restore that actually, well, restore heals HP naturally, but its effect is it absorbs it. You get HP at the same time as you're using it. So I could say use a restore on another character, heal from that, and I can do it 4 times because I've got another restore linked to Quadra Magic. It's because when you get links, they only ever come in pairs. So, for example, I couldn't just take one restore materia and attach it to 2 separate blue materia at once. I would have to take 2 copies of that materia, say one restore and another restore, and attach them both to their own blue materia. So that's how you can really take advantage of that. Now, the Master Materia, Master Magic, and Master Command, there it is, Master Command, and the other one, which is just here, Master Summon, they all summon monsters summoned, and the commands, Master Command, equips all commands, Master Magic, equips all magic. That's right, you can get materia with everything in it. So this is Master Magic. If I equip it to Cloud, and I go to Magic, and I look at Cloud, he's got everything from one materia. All magic in the game from one materia. So, now that seems rather excessive, doesn't it? All magic in one materia? Well, there's I would say two reasons as to why the Master Materia isn't that great, but still it can be used really well to your advantage. One reason that the Master... Well, first of all, I'll talk about how you actually acquire the Master Magic Materia. By getting the Master Magic Materia, you actually don't gain anything that you didn't already have. And what I mean by that is that in order to get the Master Magic Materia, you have to actually go out of your way to master one copy of every green materia. So here I've got one restore done. I don't have a heal, so if I wanted to get another Master Magic, I'd have to max out that heal, I'd have to max out that revive, I'd have to max out that seal, I'd have to max out that mystify. I have to max out one of these, and so on. And once you've done that, you can actually combine them all into a single Master Magic. So you do actually lose out on materia that you had and put them all into a single materia. This is good because it allows you to save space on materia. It's also good because it allows you to be more flexible in that you can equip them all and it'll only take up the single slot here. But it's kind of bad in a couple of ways. One negative thing about it is that now that you've combined them all, you can never uncombine them. So this Master Magic, because I had like a maxed out Ultima and a maxed out Mystify, I actually can't separate those. I have to still give them all to the same character. So it kind of cuts out on your flexibility. You increase power in a materia to cut out in flexibility, but it's still more flexible in that you've got more different free spaces for materia slots. Also, a good and a bad side effect of the Master Materia is how it interacts with blue materia. It depends on what type of blue materia you're doing that will determine whether or not it will work. Now, the type of blue materia that adds something new to when you're using it, they work. So if I, for example, attach an all materia to Master Magic, and I go to Magic with Cloud, Magic. As you can see, I've got a Master Doll which is all 5 times, and I've got them. And it's affecting all of my magic here because, well, not all of them, because the ones it's not affecting here are basically ones that would target all anyway, so, like, freeze, like Ultima. It doesn't work with all of them, but that's just how it would be anyway. So, as you can see here, Q3, all times 5, Asuna, all times 5, Ice 2, all times 5, and that's because I've got all of those spells attached onto one materia, which is linked to all. Now, the downside to this is that materia that would usually add another effect to cause that thing to be cast won't work. So if I say Earth, which is the quick spell, and I attach that to final attack, so that means that when Cloud dies, the Earth spell will be cast. And if you look at Magic, and if we go to the quick here, oh, it doesn't say there, but hold on, let's just experiment here. No, well, it's not saying, but take my word for it. Yeah, I'm telling you to take my word for it. If you attach Master Magic and link that to final attack, well, automatically uses paired materia when disabled, so like that's when you die. What's it going to do? It's not going to cast every spell in the game, because you see the difference is that this is a blue materia that's adding another condition that caused the linked one to be used, and so that doesn't work. But something that adds an effect to when you use it, say HP absorb. Now this should show, yes, it says absorb HP, because this is an effect that adds an effect for when you're using it, and not one of those that chooses to cast it another time. So it becomes less flexible with materia, and that's another downside to it. Also to point out, with some green materia here, especially like the high level ones like Ultima, Shield and Full Cure, you actually need to grow a level with it before you can use the ability. So I can equip Ultima in order to level it up, in order to get the Ultima spell, but I can't cast it until I've actually gotten it to level 2. That's just a unique feature of I suppose it's not unique because it affects more than one, but that's just a particular feature of some of the later level materia, the late game materia. So there are quite a few different interesting combinations that you can do with the materia, and I'm just going to go through some of the different combinations that you can do. And this is just an example. You can go up with your own strategies, but this is just what I've found. Now, one for example that I do like is poison mixed with added effect, and so that means that I poison the enemy when I attack. And I also like to do death blow mixed with added cut. Now, where is added cut? There. Okay, I'll explain this setup. Poison plus added effect means that you poison the enemy when you attack them, and of course it's all based on a percentage. It's not going to be guaranteed. Now, a death blow is an ability whereby if you use it, then it's like a basic attack, apart from you have a 50% chance of missing, but if you do hit, it's definitely a critical hit. Now, the added cut materia is basically where when you use the paired materia, you do an attack as well. So you can use this combination here to override your basic attack. So if you want to attack an enemy, now you can use the death blow plus added cut, so that you'll definitely get the one attack in from the added cut, and you might get a critical hit from the death blow. So that's really, really effective. Well, it's on average the equivalent of 2 attacks per turn, although it's the equivalent of a random amount, either 1 or 3 damage wise. But yeah, that's so it's basically more attacks, and because you're attacking more, that means you've got more opportunities for this poison mixed with added effect to actually work. So there's an example of a particular what's it called? That's a good example of a materia combination. Also, one thing that you can do is you can add MP absorb and MP turbo to the same spell. So say I put one restore with MP absorb and another restore with MP turbo. MP absorb means that when you use whatever it's paired with, you will cure some MP, and MP turbo means that the spell that you're casting, the one that's linked to, costs a bit more MP, but it's more powerful. And if you've got MP absorb mixed with MP turbo both on the same spell, then that means you're costing more MP to make it more effective, but also curing MP at the same time. So yeah, there's some really good things you can make use of there. So, is there anything else that I particularly want to cover with materia? I think I've covered the basics of how materia work. Although, I am actually going to point out, although I mentioned the master materia, like master summon, master command and master magic, these don't actually happen until late in the game, but I still think it's interesting enough and relevant enough to actually mention in this overview. Okay, I'm going to pause this recording for now, and when I get back, I'm going to go through the different characters and how limit breaks work, and just how I choose my characters, and the different traits of each character, their own advantages, their own disadvantages, and if there's anything else that I need to cover, then I'll do it then. So I'll see you in just a second. Okay, back, and now I'm going to talk about the limit breaks. Now, as you can see, each character has these things here. It says limit level, and it says 4 for Cloud, Barrett's on limit level 3, and Sid is on 3. And if I go to my PHS, you can have a look at the other characters, and does it say... no, not directly, but I'll go into those. Now if we go into limit, every character, with one exception, has 4 limit levels, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Levels 1, 2 and 3 each have 2 limit breaks in them, and level 4 has just the one, with another exception who has just 1 limit break per level. But I'll go through the exceptions after I've explained how this basically works. You can have 1 limit level set at a time. So here Cloud is set to limit level 4. I can set him to another level, I can set him to level 3, but doing so it will reset the limit, the bar back to its 0 point, and I don't want to do that. So you start at just basically level 1 with just the first limit break, which is Braver, and if I go to check, you can see what each individual limit break does. So Braver attacks one opponent, Cross Slash attacks and paralyzes one opponent, then you've got Blade Beam, diffuses after hitting one opponent, and then Climatize attacks one opponent, and yeah, you've got all these different abilities here. So you start out with just Braver, and every character is the same. So say if I go to Barrett here, he starts with just Big Shot, and Sid starts with just Boost Jump. Now the way that you advance limit breaks, and actually I'll talk about how you actually activate limit breaks. When you get hit in this game, your limit bar goes up to the top. And when it reaches the top, your attack command turns into limit, and that means you can use one of your limit breaks, depending on what level you've set. If I was set to level 1, I could access one of these 2 limit breaks, and if I had set to level 2, I'd have access to these 2 limit breaks here. And once you use a limit break, the bar goes back down to 0, and it goes up. The speed that it goes up depends on 2 things. One of those things is the percentage of damage you get hurt. So say if an enemy comes and attacks you for a tiny percentage of your health, it'll only go up by a small amount. But if they attack you for a lot, it will go up by a lot. Another thing that can change the rate of how fast it goes up is whether you are in Fury or Sadness. And I have been through this before. As you can see here, Sid is in Fury, and you can use items to change whether you are in Fury or Sadness. Hyper and Tranquilizer. See, a Hyper cures Sadness but causes Fury, and a Tranquilizer is the other way around. A Tranquilizer cures Fury but also creates Sadness. So I could, for example, cure Sid's Fury with the Tranquilizer, but if I used it again, you'd have Sadness, and if I use it on these 2, they'd have Sadness. If I use a Hyper on them, it would cure their Sadness. I could use it back on Sid to cause him to go back into Fury. Now Fury makes your limit bar go up faster, but it causes you to be less accurate with your attacks, and Sadness causes the opposite effect. And even though you can self-inflict Fury or Sadness depending on what you want to do, usually you'd want to inflict Fury on yourself, you can have enemies change it and inflict Fury or Sadness on you. So that's what causes the bar to go up. And also note that once you've actually got once the bar is all the way up, that overrides your attack command, so you can't attack until you use Limit Break. Although there are ways around it, like materia setups, like Death Blow with added cut, for example, I was talking about before. You could use that to override attack, so there are ways around it. Now, so for level 1, 2 and 3, in order to get... oh, no, not that. In order to get the second limit break within the level, you have to use the first limit break in the level so many times. So once Cloud has used Braver so many times, he'll learn Cross Slash, and once Cloud has used Blade Beam every so many times, he'll learn Clim Hazard, and once he uses Meteor Rain so many times, he'll learn Finishing Touch. So to get the second limit break in the level, you have to use the first limit break in the level so many times. Now, the way that you advance levels and you gain more levels is to actually kill enemies. The more enemies that Cloud kills, the more limit levels he'll gain. He'll gain level 2. So it is possible to actually gain Blade Beam before learning Cross Slash if you kill enemies faster for that than what you would using your limit break, using Braver for Cross Slash. The level 4 limit break is unique in that you have to fulfill very specific conditions in order to achieve it, because these are like their ultimate limit breaks. Omni Slash is very well known, and the way that you get the level 4 is, well, first of all, you have to, well, no, not first, but you have to have learned all 6 other limit breaks with that character, and there are items in the game which, once used, will give your characters their 4th level limit break, and these are all found through like side quests and secret missions, and some of them are harder to find than others, but they're not just general like things you'll stumble across, even though some of them may be. Some of them, like Omni Slash for example, you have to gain loads of points in the battle arena in this game so that you can then get it, and it's not like directly so easy to do it. It does take some time before you can get it. So that's how that works. Also, another thing to note is that when you're actually using your limit break in battle, the limit break will take absolute priority. So regardless of speed, if you use a limit break, whatever's going on at the moment, as soon as that animation is finished, the limit break will take effect. It's not going to wait until your other characters have done their thing, because it's not determined by speed. It just takes complete priority. So that's how limit breaks work. And there are also techniques that you'd want to take into account in regards to how fast you want to learn certain limit breaks. Like, for example, Cloud is the main character, so he's going to be in your party a lot of the time. So you don't need to specifically set up materia to allow him to kill more enemies, because he's going to do that naturally, whereas other characters, like maybe Yuffie for example, or well, Barrett, he won't be in your party the whole time. So when you do have him in your party, you might want to try to get him to kill more enemies for that reason. It's the same with any other character, I suppose. Now, I did say there are 2 exceptions. I'm going to bring those 2 exceptions out. They are Kate Sith and Vincent. They're both in the back row, as you can see there. All of Vincent's weapons are long range, so I can't think of any other reason to set him into the... in fact, I don't think there's any reason to put him into the front row. But if we look at the limit breaks, Kate Sith only has 2 limit breaks, dice and slots, and it's basically just how you'd normally get a level 2 limit break. Kill so many enemies with Kate Sith, and he'll have slots, and then he's done. That's all the limit breaks he's getting. Vincent, on the other hand, only has 4 limit breaks with only 1 per level, so he never actually has to use his limit breaks in order to be able to learn them. Yeah, I need to get my words out, not mix up my sentences. So yeah, and that's why I think you never really need Vincent in the front row, because all his weapons are long range, and the only reason you'd put a character in the front row with a long range weapon is so that they can build up their limit gauge up faster, so that they can use their limits, so they can learn their second of the level limit breaks. But Vincent doesn't have those, so I don't think there's ever a reason to put Vincent into the front row. Although I will say that Vincent's limit breaks aren't very good, I don't think. It basically transforms into like a monster, and the monster does their own thing. Also, just to point out that's a nice little reference there, Chaos being the final boss from Final Fantasy I, also being Vincent's final limit break. I like it when there's little cross references like that. Kate Sith's limit breaks are okay. Most characters' limit breaks aren't anything special. There's a few characters who have like unique features about their limit breaks, although not really. Like Yuffie and Barrett. Oh, hold on 1 second, folks. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, folks. I thought I heard something. Anyway, as I was saying, Barrett's limit breaks and Yuffie's limit breaks and Cid's limit breaks, and most characters' limit breaks don't really have any special unique things about them, so they don't really vary too much. And if you look at Red 13 and yeah, let's bring Yuffie back and just have a look at their limits. See, Red 13's second level 1 here casts haste on your party, and there's some basically like attacks and draining and that, and final limit break is attack all opponents. And then Yuffie's is basically kind of very similar. You've got Clear Tranquil, which cures HP, but a lot of limit breaks are basically just powerful attacks. Even the ultimate ones. I mean, a lot of the ultimate limit breaks are simply just really powerful attacks, and there isn't very much variation. The main exceptions, the 3 main exceptions, are Vincent, as I've shown you, Cait Sith, and Aerith is actually quite a bit of an exception as well, because she doesn't really have any, what's it called, like strength-based limit breaks. Rather, usually they're healing and all that white magey kind of stuff. And she has 1 limit break, which actually, when you use it, it actually fully charges the limit breaks of the other 2 characters in the party. So that is very, very good. So yeah, that's the difference in the limit breaks and how limit breaks are used. I am actually going to talk about some techniques as to who I like to use and why. Oh, gee, I can't believe I almost forgot. Tifa's limit break. Now, Tifa's very unique when it comes to limit breaks. I can't believe I almost forgot this. Tifa's very unique when it comes to limit breaks because she doesn't really operate like the rest do. With Tifa, the way that it works is that each individual limit break is like a slot machine that spins round, and you have to try to get it onto the hit or the more powerful hitting ones. And the further up the chain you go, the harder it is to do. But she's actually unique in that she can use all her limit breaks at once. See, it's set to level 4, but the first wheel will determine the attack of Beat Rush, then Somersault, then Water Kick, then Meteor Dive, then Dolphin Blow, then Meteor Strike, and then Final Heaven. So she's quite a unique one in that regard. So yeah, characters do have unique traits about them, even though ability-wise, outside of the limit, well, ability-wise, general ability-wise, like magic, they are all very flexible in the same regards. But like, for example, you got Div with their own unique type of limit breaks. Kate Sith and Vincent work different with the limit breaks. You've got different types of weapons, so like Barrett has a lot of long range weapons and Vincent has exclusively long range weapons. But the main team that I use is Yuffie and Sid along with Cloud, because well, you have to play as Cloud. Now, the way that I like to do it is that early game I like to use Barrett and Red 13, and I really like to use them because they get double growth materia early, double growth weapons should I say, early in the game, where they can attach a few materia and allow it to grow twice as fast. So that's what I use for early in the game. Ares is actually kind of useful in that through her you can learn a particular enemy skill really early on, and that really helps. So she's useful in that regards, and also what was I going to say? Oh, I can't remember. Now Vincent is useful because he has exclusively long range weapons, and also there's something that you can do with Vincent, and he has a weapon, if I can find it. Yes, the sniper rifle. Even though it has no materia slots, you can still equip materia through the thing here, and so I do believe it's the sniper rifle where it gives you complete 100% accuracy without the chance of failing. So if, for example, you were to do the death blow and added cut, if I can find it, and the added cut combination with Vincent here, with the sniper rifle, that's like extremely powerful, because the flaw of death blow is that it's very, very likely to miss, but not with Vincent. So he's got that advantage. But I didn't use him because to me that's not advantage enough over the other characters. So that's what he's got. Tifa, I don't like using Tifa so much, but there are some story points in the game where you have to use her at particular moments, so it still is feasible. She still is a feasible strategy to use. And her limit break is potentially lots of attacks, even rather early on in the game if you're good at the slot machine thing. Red 13 and Barrett, yeah, I've mentioned they get double growth materia early on. Yuffie I use for a particular reason in my final team because of her ultimate weapon, which I'll go into in a moment. Kate Sith I never use because he's just not got any strong points. I think his second level limit break has like a really low chance of doing like amazing things, but that's not a risk you should really be willing to take because he's just got no other positive aspects about him. But the reason I use Yuffie and Sid is because of, well, for Sid, it's because of his, the fact that he's got a scimitar. That's a triple growth weapon, triple growth materia there, and even still, he's still got a 5-slotted double growth. So that can be really useful there. And also I should point out that When it comes to the growth of materia, now one way you can do it is to think about how much slot it gives you and multiply that by the growth rate. So for example, you might think, oh, okay, 2 slots there with triple growth, that's the same as having 6 slots. But that's not exactly true, because you have to remember that certain materia, such as, oh, I don't know, Knights of the Round here, you can only have one copy of at a time until you've actually mastered it and then get another one. So if you really, really want to like focus MP on, no, not MP, AP on very specific materia, then this is the way to go about it, because you could eventually get to the point where you've got more materia than what you feel you've got use for, so you'll end up using it to fill out your spaces. Although I also guess that depends on how familiar you are with the game. So that's a really good thing about triple growth weapons, and one reason why I really like using Sid is because of his triple growth weapon. And so Knights of the Round and Mime, wherever it is, yeah, see, I've got a mastered Mime there, so I've got another Mime just underneath. And Mime, if you really wanted to master those, and trust me, those are 2 materia that are worth mastering, because they are hard to, they are some of like the most secret and most powerful materia in the game, you'd want them to level up. So that's why I like to use Sid. The reason I like to use Yuffie or Yuffie, however you pronounce her name, is because of the effect of her ultimate weapon, Conformer. And that's a long range weapon, that's good. Yes. Yeah, although long range weapon isn't actually the reason that I actually really like the Conformer. The reason is because of the extra effect. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about the ultimate weapons. The ultimate weapons, kind of like the ultimate limit breaks, you find through secret means, and there's one for every character. Yes, even Kate Sith in this instance has an ultimate weapon, even though it doesn't have an ultimate limit break. And what's always special and unique about the ultimate weapons is, other than just, you know, the fun of finding them and collecting them, is that they all have a special ability attached to them. And other than the special ability, what I find interesting is that all of them have no materia growth. So even if we go to Cloud's ultimate weapon here, it has all materia slots with 4 linked pairs, but it's got no materia growth. So I think that's interesting, because what it means is that even if you get the ultimate weapons, it's not always necessarily best to use them, because if your aim is to grind, or to grind AP, then maybe they will set you back rather than set you forward. And some of the secret bosses give you a lot of AP, and it's just a shame that if you're using the ultimate weapons against them, all the materia that attached to them won't be getting that AP. But they've all got a special unique skill attached to them. Like, for example, I think with Sid's, the more MP he has closer to his max, then the more powerful it becomes. And I think for Cloud it's the same with HP, but don't quote me on that. But with Yuffie, what's special about the Conformer is that if she has the Conformer and you give her the morph materia is actually much more effective. And I'll just talk about the morph materia for a bit. What the morph materia does is, it's a very weak attack, but if you kill the enemy with it, you get an item from them. Now, what's special about the Conformer is that if you've got the Conformer and you use Morph with Yuffie, the special ability that's attached to the Conformer is that Morph hits the same amount of damage as a regular attack, meaning that she is by far the best character to be morphing. And what makes this really good late game is that there's a particular area with really hard enemies. Well, I say really hard, I mean I've completely out-leveled them now, but there's an area late in the game, a secret area where you can morph those enemies into permanent stat boosting items. So, if you're wanting to boost your stats to the max if you want to, then she is the way to do it. And it's also a means to actually grind out stats aside from just what you'd get naturally through levels. So that's really, really helpful. So that's who I choose. That's my team. So, yes, I'm not sure if there's much I have left to say other than at this point that yes, you do. There are differences between the characters, so you do have a strategy to choosing who you're going to choose to use. And also with this game, even with the characters that you don't use, they still get half the experience that they would have got if they were in battle. So you're not likely to make any permanent mistakes by changing your mind on who you want to use so far through. But at the same time, what you don't want is to focus on certain characters and then change your mind and then end up with weak other characters. Like, see here, I knew who I was going to use, so Cloud, Yuffie and Sid, they're all like level 99 and Cloud's approaching that. And see, you've got other characters here like Barrett, Tifa, Red 13, like these here, they're all in their 70s. And even though that's like way late in the game and level 70 plus is more than powerful enough to do what you need to do in the game, you can still see that they are significantly behind on levels, so you don't want to dedicate to one and then to switch. It's not game breaking, it's just a mild inconvenience, but still, it's a nice touch. Although you may be wondering, why is Yuffie and Sid both level 99 when Cloud, the main character, isn't even at the max? Well, one good reason for that. If I can find it. EXP Plus materia increases the amount of experience you get per battle, and the reason I give that to Yuffie is because, well, she was going to be the one morphing, so she was the one that needed the strength. Now, I'm not gonna like turn this into a whole like let's discuss what all my strategies are and stuff, because that it would be an entirely thing in and of itself, and I'm not going to go over what all the materia do because that would just be overkill. Although some people would argue that what I'm doing now is in and of itself rather overkill, but I think I've done enough here. So, yeah, that's Final Fantasy VII, how the game works, and all that lovely, lovely RPG gameplay stuff. So, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.